Hey guys, K-Stack here with another video. Today we are going to be reacting to another true crime video by Running Mango. This video is Korea's Death Mall, 502 dead and 40 missing inside high-end department store. This one's going to be a doozy, guys. And it's going to be crazy. It's just really going to be deep, okay? So get ready, grab your snacks and drinks. This one's a long one. And you might want to grab some tissues because it's gonna be a doozy. Here we go.
Bada bing, bada boo.
Bada bing, bada boom.
Mina was shuffling through the children's clothing racks, and she feels this little tug on her skirt. And she's asking her son, "Okay, yeah, what is it, sweetie? Do you need something?" There's no response. So Mina pulls her eyes away from the clothes, and she looks at her son. He's like 6 years old at this point, and his eyes are bulging out of his head. He looks petrified.
Oh my god.
She's like, "What's wrong?" And this little kid, he's Korean, he says, "Oma, we've got to go home right now." "Why? What's wrong? Do you have to go potty? Like, I'll be done in 10 minutes. Can you hold it?" "No, the ajashi said that we need to leave right now." Mina looks around. There's definitely nobody near them, and there's definitely not a middle-aged man. All of the employees at this children's clothing store, they're young women. So she's confused. "What ajashi are you talking about? Like, I just need to grab a few more things."
And Ajashi is a old man.
Old middle-aged man. And he looks up at her again and says, "That ajashi right there told me to leave." And he's pointing into the air.
Ooh.
Mina looks, and there is
Kissy ghost.
nobody. She says,
Kissy
"Are you
ghost.
sure you saw an ajashi? What did he look like?" He keeps saying he was bleeding. He keeps trying to hug the nice cashier lady. Mina didn't leave because she's in this very fancy luxury
that is a
shopping
big
mall.
building.
And maybe kids just make up some things. Maybe he wanted to go to a toy store instead. Maybe he was bored. Maybe he wanted to go home and watch TV. It just didn't make any sense why there would be a bleeding man in the middle of this store. I mean, this mall is known for, you walk in, very normal to see coats going for $1,000 a
God
coat.
damn, I would never.
Table tea sets going for $8,000,
I could
$9,000.
never be in a place like this.
People dressed up
Never
to go
afford it.
shopping at this establishment. There certainly weren't any middle-aged bleeding ajashis trying to hug cashiers. It's just not that type of place.
Damn.
But these were the rumors that would float around Korea even to this day. Children dragging their parents out of this mall, talking about how they saw a bloody man telling them to get out. How they saw bloody people climbing onto workers' backs,
That's
trying to
crazy.
almost get on their back like a piggyback ride. There were rumors that children were being warned to stay away from this mall. Because very soon, over 502 people would be dead and 30 people would go missing inside of these very walls.
Okay, can we stop for a second? Stephanie always knows how to fucking drag you into these videos, bro. Her like intros are always know how to like grasp your attention and make you want to watch more. I fucking love her videos, bro. They're so good. I can't. All right, here we go.
As always, full show notes are available at rottenmangopodcast.com. This is another Korean case. We had multiple Korean researchers assist in gathering of the facts on this one. But as always, please let us know if there's anything that we didn't cover or something that got lost in translation. I mean, it's a huge case, so I'm sure it's bound that we're going to have things that we didn't touch up on, but just let us know in the comments. So with that being said, let's get into it. June 29th in South Korea is almost peak summertime. I mean, almost every single person that walked into this Hamplung Mall said the same thing that day. 왜 이렇게 더워? Which is, why is it so hot? Like, why is it so hot? A lot of people were coming to the mall to avoid the heat outside. And usually these massive indoor malls, they blast the AC during the summer. You walk in, you feel that ice cold air smack you on the way in. Not today. The mall was more humid, more hot, clammy. It was so hot, it was difficult to breathe inside of the mall.
God damn.
It's like the AC was broken. The workers are profusely sweating, apologizing to the customers. "Sorry,
Nah,
the
I
AC
could
is
not be in
broken.
that
I'm
place
sure
if
it's
it was
going to
that
turn
hot."
back on any second now." And despite all the heat, about 1,000 people were inside that mall when the whole thing came crumbling down. Everyone had 20 seconds to get out of that mall. That's all they got. 20 seconds is the length of the happy birthday song in Korean. If you had 20 seconds to, do you think you could go from inside of the changing room, inside of a store, get out of the store, down the hall, to the emergency staircase, down the stairs to the ground floor? Let's say you're 4 stories high, 3 stories, fine, right?
No, I would not.
And at least a few more steps further to avoid impact. Could you do that in 20 seconds? So,
Not gonna lie, I don't think I could. One, I have asthma, so I can't run that much without needing to like stop to breathe. And if there's a bunch of people in my way, I'm not strong enough to push people out of my way to get the fuck out of there, bro. So no, I don't think I could. I think I would just been dead. This sucks.
Pyonghol, he was a maknae at his job, which means he was the youngest in amongst all of his coworkers, which is why all the colleagues kind of like took it easy on him when he was pouting and whining the whole day. He's like, it's not fair. We work at the restaurant on the 5th floor. The AC's broken. All the other restaurants on this floor are closed. Why are we open? Why are we the only one? On top of that, I mean, do customers really want to eat right now? It's so hot.
So the AC just broke that day.
Yeah, all day it had been off.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it's not like ongoing. It's
No.
just it's okay.
That one day. So he's in the front keeping himself busy when the head chef runs out from the kitchen. Get out, get out, get out.
Mm,
Pyongho's like, okay, I'm not even going to look up. He just casually says, okay, give me a second. Like, I just need to finish this up.
bro.
The chef runs to
He
Pyonghol,
said, "Get out," so get the
pushes
fuck
him on
out.
the back and says, you idiot, I said run. And he looks up and he sees people booking it. Like there's like 5 customers, they're booking it to the emergency stairwell. So he starts jumping over chairs, jumping over tables, trying to join them at that staircase. He has no idea what's going on. He just knows that they're all running. And as he's running,
Where are they
one
running
by
from?
one, the lights, the recessed lighting in the ceiling, they're shattering. And it's getting darker and darker. And Pyonghol would have 20 seconds to make it out alive.
Oh my god.
Jiwon, let's call her Gia, was another employee at the mall. She worked in the basement level. So she sold crystals at one of those like home goods shops. And that day, she took her break early because it was so hot. I mean, she felt like all day, if she even moved fast, if she even thought fast, she would break out into a full-blown sweat. So she tried to move slowly, reserve this energy. She had to fight every intrusive thought that she had to not just walk out of that store, quit, and never look back. That's how hot it was. She takes her break early, and as she's walking back into the store, the manager, Unni, which is like an older sister, right, starts running towards her, screaming, turn around, run, run. The
Oh,
last
God.
thing Gia remembers were these little broken shards of crystal flying at her, and she didn't understand what was happening. Just that all the crystals in the shop looked like they had exploded. Gia would
From the
have 20
heat,
seconds
or-
to make it out alive. 19-year-old, let's call her Sarah. Sarah had just graduated from high school, and now she's working at one of these high-end children's clothing shops,
Only
basement level of the
19?
mall. She wasn't even supposed to be working that day. Her colleague called her and was like, hey, can you switch shifts with me? So she did.
I would have said no.
She was coming back from her lunch break when she felt something really strange. There was a cold wind. And it felt really nice
There was
because
no
she had
air.
been sweating in this hot, humid, dank basement floor all
There was
day
a breeze,
without
but
the
there was
AC.
no air on.
But did you just catch on?
Well, yeah, why is there a cold wind, right?
Exactly. She works on level B1, the basement floor. There's no exterior doors that could be open to let in a breeze.
Exactly.
It was a strong breeze, too. And the AC wasn't back on.
Oh hell no.
Sarah would have 20 seconds to make it out alive.
Okay, we get it. 20 seconds.
There is a
to get
man.
alive. We said it.
21. His name is Choi Myung-seok, but we're gonna call him Michael. He actually started working at the shoe store in this Hampung department store. He was studying architecture, but he just needed to make some extra money on the side. And he was on his shift when everything went dark. He didn't even have 20 seconds to run. Nothing registered in him. It was just lights out, literally, figuratively. When he woke back up, everything was pitch black.
Oh,
He
no.
was laying on cold concrete. He's basically boxed in by concrete. He couldn't move.
Oh, hell
On
no,
the
I would
sides of
start
him,
freaking
there
out. I
was
would have a panic
concrete.
attack, bro.
Above him, there
I
was
would, like,
concrete.
end up
Below him,
killing
concrete.
myself
He
on
just
it
had to lay
from
there in a fetal
panic, I feel
position,
like.
having no idea what had just happened. There was no light, no food, no water. He tried to kind of push up against the jagged concrete, but he was worried that any sort of movement would cause the concrete to completely crush him. Even the air supply felt stale, dusty, and limited. The
Here's another thing, like, about like air being like not good. I have asthma, so any bad air or any small air amount, I would probably die, suffocate, because I already have a hard time breathing sometimes. That if I have literally limited amount of air, and I already have a hard time breathing, like imagine what that does to someone with asthma. Oops, I did not mean to hit the wrong button.
panic starts to kick in. He's like getting claustrophobia.
Right.
And in any other situation, I think that this would have been terrifying. But he
It would
started
be,
hearing a woman's screams.
that would be even more terrifying.
And she's screaming, "Save me! Save me!" He said that he felt kind of happy. That he wasn't
I
alone
wouldn't.
in the
I'd be
dark.
more panicked.
So he starts screaming back, "Hello?" There were now two voices responding back at him. So one was Lee Sung-yeon, a 25-year-old woman that worked in the kitchenware shop, also on the first basement floor, and an ajumani. So that's like an older auntie customer.
So these are a lot of like basement workers, right?
Yes.
Is it because there's a higher chance of survival?
Yeah.
my
Everyone on
gosh.
floors 1 through 5, unless they were out of the building, they would die.
Damn.
So they were all trapped. Just like Michael, the ajumani, the woman, they're all trapped. The ajumani could barely talk because she was actively being squashed by the concrete, like on her chest.
Ajumani is
The customer,
she's
an
a
older woman.
yeah.
Yeah. I would say maybe like 50s, 60s.
Mm,
And she told them
no.
in all these gasp breaths, like, "There's a heavy piece of concrete on my chest. I can't talk." So the two, Michael and the other kitchen shop worker, they tried to help her not panic so that she's not going to hyperventilate, because there's no way for her to even like take in a big breath of air. So in small breaths, in very kind of like she's drowning, she tells the others, "My daughter turned 30 this year." And there was just this lingering silence, because it's a reminder of everything that was
So
outside.
she's like 40 or 50 and her
and they
daughter
don't
turned
know
30.
what to say
then
to that.
That's weird. Sorry.
So they fall silent. Michael feels these tears coming down the sides of his face, and he says, "Then let's get out alive." And the three promised each other, "Okay, us three."
All right, good, Michael, because I swear to God, if I was in a situation like this, I'm not even gonna lie, I feel like if I was like alive in a situation like this, I feel like to cope with like my sadness or fear, I would just start saying dumb shit like she'd be like, "I can't breathe," like I would probably say some stupid shit like, "It's because of me," like, "You can't breathe because of me," or some stupid shit like that. I swear to God, I would say some dumb shit. I would be I wouldn't say, I don't even know, bro. 'Cause I'm like a really quiet, shut-in person, so I don't even know what I would say to these people. Like, I would be the worst person to motivate someone or something like this in a situation.
"We're gonna get out alive." And then everything went black again. Michael and the others, they kept falling asleep, coming to, falling
Don't
asleep,
blame 'em.
passing out. I wonder if it's the air supply that was cutting them off. It was hard to even gauge how long they had been in there. Michael asked the others, "Hello? How long have we been in here?" The 25-year-old worker responded, but her voice sounded really weak. "I think a day, maybe 2. I don't know. It feels like a week." "Ajumani, are you okay?" Silence. And then they started panicking. "Ajumani, you have to wake up. You gotta wake up. Your daughter just turned 30. Michael would never hear her voice again. She was gone, and she would never get to see her daughter turn
Bro,
31.
she had a piece of something on
Not
her
long
chest. You can't
after,
survive
the
that for
25-year-old kitchen
long.
worker
Oh my
called
God,
out
it's
for
so
Michael and
sad.
said, Michael, yeah? I think I'm gonna go now.
Oh no.
Please tell my family I love them.
No.
Michael said that after that, the fear of, I wonder if it's the air supply. Please tell my family I love them.
We're gonna edit.
Michael said that after that, the fear of death had never been so strong. Like he could almost taste it. It gripped his entire being. He said it's very hard to explain. He had never felt anything like that. He was all alone. The two others that had, quote, survived, they were now dead. He felt like it was
That's
only a matter of
sad.
time until he died, but it's a slow, agonizing wait. He started feeling delusional from the anxiety, the hunger,
I would have
and
felt
then
so lonely.
all of a sudden, he just felt so thirsty. He didn't even feel scared anymore. It was all he could think about was water, thirst. It's like he was going crazy. Right at that time, someone answered his prayers. While he was feeling delirious, water started dripping onto his head.
I
He
would've
didn't even
thought-
know if he was dreaming. He genuinely thought, am I hallucinating? Like,
I
you know,
would've
when you
thought the
see the
same
lakes
thing.
at the desert and you keep walking towards it? He thought it was that. But he scooted so that the water would drip directly into his mouth instead of his forehead.
I would have thought I was
And he
going crazy.
started
Like,
drinking
what the
the
fuck?
disgusting water that was dripping into his mouth. He felt around with his hands in the dark, and there were these few pieces of like dusty, I don't even want to call it like paper, more like cardboard boxes. And he grabbed them, wet them in the water, and he slowly laid there, ripping it, shoving it in his mouth, chewing and eating it. He was so desperate to just fill his stomach with
I'm sorry.
anything
I feel like that'd be
that
weird to ask him
acid
that
was
part.
just killing him. Now, side note, the water that he's drinking and that he's wetting this paper with, it's not fresh water or even tap water. It has been through layers of concrete, dust, rust, and that's if there's no dead bodies on top of him. It was very risky water, but he had no choice.
But you really
And
had
that
no
is
choice.
what he
You're
would
like
do
so
for the
thirsty.
next 11 days.
11
That's
days?
almost 2 full weeks. In silence,
Could you guys do
alone
that
in
for
the
11
dark,
days? I feel like I couldn't.
eating rusty, wet paper. It was dead silent for Michael. He had no idea that on the other side of all these layers and layers of concrete and twisted metal, there were thousands of people trying to save him.
Oh, God.
All hell had just broken loose. This was happening on a random Tuesday afternoon. There were commuters, office workers, families driving near the mall, out walking on the streets. They hear this crazy, almost deafening noise. They look to their left. I mean, some of them it's their right. And this entire shopping mall, one of the most iconic buildings at the time, because
my
it's like this
God.
salmon pink color. Everyone knew that's Sampung Mall, right? Pancaked. This mall that was
What would you do
10,
if you were
20
driving
stories
by
tall,
and you heard this and you look
now
over
look
and
like
you could
a
see
one-story
the
building.
building literally falling.
pancaked.
With boom, boom,
A
boom.
pile of rubble.
Smash.
It wasn't even like an avalanche where, you know, which I know those things happen very quickly, but you know, you watch those videos and you see things are slowly falling and you can't stop it, but it comes closer and closer. This was one
Hey,
second the
it's,
building is standing up tall, totally fine. The next second, it's on the ground.
That's crazy.
All you see are skies. The first thing on everyone's mind was North Korea. We are under attack. This
Thanks
is a
for the raid the
full-blown
other
war.
day. Of
North
course,
Korea
of
is
course.
attacking us. So a
I
lot
almost
of people
forgot
are
about it,
running
too. I was, like,
away from the
ending it.
building because they don't know. Is North Korea gonna?
I was ending the stream and I almost forgot about it, and then I remembered. I'm like, wait, is this live? So I like turned back on my screen. I'm like, God, I'm like, all right, sorry. Before we go, guys, we're gonna rate it. I forgot that he's live. So yeah, wanting to do a little something. All right.
Attack another building, but a lot of people were running towards the building
Yeah.
to try and help anyone they could. And it was like a group of zombies were
That's
seen
crazy.
walking out of the mall. Their faces, their hair, their whole body was white, like powder white. Some of them had even patches of bright red blood on them, but the rest of their bodies,
Oh my God.
powder white. Even their eyelashes were white. It's like someone threw bags of flour at them. There was so much sand, rubble, cement, particles in the air that anyone within an 80 feet
Lurk?
radius
You're
from the
gonna
mall
lurk?
was covered in
All
white
right.
powder.
Wow.
At this point, breaking news is playing on every single TV station news network. Sampung department store has just collapsed. There are an estimated 1,000 people inside at the time of the collapse.
Oh my,
As of
that's
right now,
crazy. 1,000
investigators do
people
not
in
know
a
the
building
cause of the
collapse.
attack. There is speculation that this could be the work of a terrorist attack by
Not a
North
terrorist
Korea.
attack.
Hundreds of ambulances, fire trucks, they rushed to the scene. About 4,000 official personnel, so I mean, you're talking firefighters, police, soldiers, they start arriving at the scene. They bring in helicopter cranes, heavy machinery, and the whole situation was so tricky. There's two main issues that the rescuers are confronted with. So the first being that the left and right edges of this building have not collapsed.
Oh my god.
It's like someone cut out just two edges of a cake and then squashed the middle.
That's crazy.
But the sides are standing, and now they're starting to kind of tip each way.
So they're
Oh,
gonna
and
fall
there's-
and hit some people. Is that?
Yeah, so if you're
Yeah.
standing in the middle of this rubble trying to dig out people, this falls, I mean, people are going to die.
Right.
Oh, and they can't even. Can they even knock it down?
No.
Because that will fall on
Yeah,
more people.
more people. So at
So they
any
have to
moment,
stay
it's
up.
at the risk of collapsing. I mean, it's like a domino waiting to topple over. It looks like a strong gust of wind could take it down.
Oh god, no.
It's dangerous. And the second problem was, even though that we have all of this heavy machinery, right? We've got the helicopter, fork cranes, none of it could be used. The experienced rescuers, they point out, if we use this equipment and we're not precise,
Right.
if there's someone underneath a piece of concrete, the machine could easily squash them. Or let's say we're trying to pick up that concrete, we could literally rip someone in half with a crane.
No, that's
We could literally
horrible.
rip their head off. Have you ever played pickup sticks?
Yeah.
You know, you get the same size sticks, you throw them,
yes.
and then you have to take each stick out without moving the other ones. That's what this was a game of.
That's horrible.
And the
bro.
stakes
That's
were really high. The rescuer
crazy.
said, I mean, people are going to die if we don't do this right. So the only way to save people was to use light machinery and go by hand and just
That
pray that the
takes
edges of the
forever.
building would not collapse in on them. So originally, the morale amongst rescuers was very, very high. I mean, it would be a miracle if anyone survived, but they at least had to try. But once they got to work, they said, you know, they noticed so many mannequin parts that were under the rubble. So looking from afar on the street, they could see like arms, legs, and torsos just peeking out from the rubble. And it's unsettling, but it's like, it's to be expected. It's a
Couching down for
shopping mall.
mannequins.
But once they lifted layers of concrete,
It was a mannequin.
It wasn't
they were
mannequins.
people.
Oh my
The
god.
night before Michael was trapped, security guard Ian was alone doing his rounds. And he wasn't nervous. You know, there's cameras everywhere, big, massive gates that are closed at night. Nobody ever tries to break into one of the top department stores in Seoul. But still,
This is
it's 3
scary.
a.m.
I
and the
kinda,
empty
don't wanna
building
go
is
to a
kind of
mall
creepy.
anymore.
All the mannequins are practically glowing under the dim lights. And he has to walk from each floor to each floor, and like the echo of his footsteps, that's the creepiest part. Every step, it sounds like someone is walking behind him. And he's walking through this newly renovated hallway when he hears like this groan. It sounds like one of those fantasy movies where they have like monsters or dragons that are groaning or hissing. And he freezes.
Oh hell no.
Okay, there's no alarm sounding. So it
Oh
can't be a
hell
robber, and that's not
no.
even like a human noise. It sounded like it was coming from the top floor. So he speed runs all the way up to the 5th floor. And so earlier I said the building is 10 to 20 stories high, right? It's 10 to 20 apartment stories high. But because it's one of those fancy department stores, it's only 5 levels above ground, but each level you're talking like crazy, like 30-foot ceilings.
So double the regular.
Yes, double, triple. So he's running up to the 5th floor and he looks up. He sees all these restaurants that are closed. And at first glance, everything seems normal. There's no one hiding. There's no shadowy figures, anything like that. And then he sees the moonlight reflecting off the glass of the restaurant. But not just even the moonlight. He sees the moon reflecting off.
In
He's
the
like, that is
building?
so weird. And he looks up. There is a giant table-sized hole in the ceiling. It looked like someone or something
Oh,
had taken a bite out of the ceiling. This is the night before the collapse.
You
Now,
guys should have shut it
If you
down.
asked
Shut
any
it
Korean
down.
person, if you had a time
What the fuck are we
machine,
even talking about?
what would you do? What was the first thing that you do with a time machine? An overwhelming majority of them would answer, I would go and buy up all the land in Gangnam. Yeah. So 50 years ago, if you purchased land in the city of Gangnam, which is like the Beverly Hills, the Upper East Side of South Korea, you would be part of South Korea's ultra elite today.
Oh.
But how would you even know to do that? 50 years ago, Gangnam was not a fun, glamorous place. It was kind of more of a dangerous place. Gangnam is south of the Han River in Seoul, and back then the rich people only lived above the river. They never lived below. Anything below was considered not that classy.
Mm.
But somehow, this businessman by the name of Lee Jun, this influential rich businessman, he worked in the South Korean government. He had ties to the American CIA. He owned a massive construction company, and he focused on doubling his business every year, which is insane. To double your business every year, that's crazy. He mainly did this by buying up land in underdeveloped, not so desirable areas like Gangnam and turning it into what it is today. And side note, he's not that smart. He's not a real estate whisperer. He was a high up government employee, and he would get word that the government wants to develop Gangnam or this area of Seoul, and he would just go in and buy a ton of land. Most of the time, he would just flip it and sell it back to the government at an inflated price. But he was going in when Gangnam real estate was selling for less than $6 a square foot. Now, it's about $1,000 a square foot. I did some math. That means if you bought an apartment that's about 1,500 square feet, that would have been about $10,000. Today, that same piece of land, $1.5 million.
Holy fuck.
So Lee, with his
10,000
insider
to a million is
information,
fucking
he bought over 2
insane.
million
That's
square
crazy.
feet in Gangnam back when it was dirt cheap. But he's like, you know what? Why would I sell this land back? I should develop it. I should do something. There's new fancy schools coming into Gangnam. Like some colleges are coming in. We got some private schools coming in. We got all these. So Gangnam is kind of known as like the new money area. The old money Koreans actually still live above the river, they say. In Gangnam, you've got all like the lawyers, doctors, like the professionals moving in. So he's like, I need to make a department store.
Oh God.
Because what do new money residents like? They like labels. They want to show people they have money. So back in the day, you know,
True.
Korean
I
stores,
hate
you go
stuck-up
there, it's
people who do that.
utilitarian. You go
Sorry.
and you buy what you need. I'm going to make it super aesthetic. I want it to be a one-shop stop. I want them to come. It's a social event. They eat dinner. There's fancy restaurants. There's a fancy supermarket. I want everything in there. So he gets this construction company called Wooseong Construction. Apparently, they're actually really good. They've got a
But this is gonna make me think now. This is gonna make me think about malls that I been to and that I go to. And it's gonna make me think, is it really safe to go in there now? Is it really safe? Should I go back there? Let's keep watching and I'll think about it more.
very clean reputation, or relatively clean. A lot of people vouch for their durability. Like right now, if you see new apartments, it might even say like Wooseong constructed because people really like it. So Lee tells Wooseong, I want a 4-story commercial building. They're like, okay. They start drawing out the plans. They start building the building. And halfway through, they've got the main foundation up. Lee walks into their office, sits down. You know what? Let's add another floor.
You can't
Make
get
it 5. Better number, right? 4 is a bad number. 5 is good.
you can't get,
Wooseong is looking at him like, are you dumb?
you literally
You
can't
cannot just add another floor.
literally you can't get
That's
that
not how
on
it
floor.
works. If you want another floor, we have to start over. We have
Literally.
to bulldoze everything down and start over. If you add another floor without altering the current plans, the building would have way too much weight and stress on the foundation, and it's going to be compromised.
The outside's not gonna be able to hold it.
So Lee gets up and says, okay, well then you're fired.
What?
He goes and he hires a new construction team, one that has a very hard time saying no to him. His own construction team.
Oh, okay. You want to tell me that it's not safe and that we can't do this? Then leave. I'll do this on my own. Bitch, are you dumb? They're literally telling you that you cannot get to add a 5th floor onto whatever is already built because it wasn't made to hold another fucking floor. You dumb fuck. Sorry. People. Ooh, this is where people start to piss me off. Oh my god, I can't.
He acts like he is the construction engineer, the architect. If you say no to him, you're fired and potentially blacklisted from the industry.
Oh my god.
And so they made his ultimate dream come true. His team built the Sampung department store. It would be the 2nd biggest department store in the nation at the time. And it would bring in
unsafest too.
insane amounts of money. The first year they were open, they were projected to do about 150 million in revenue. That's calculated with inflation. The second year, they doubled. 300 million a year in revenue. Sampung department store was built with the intention that you don't have to go anywhere else, okay? Everything's in these two buildings. So there's building A and building B, and they're connected on each floor by these long hallways. But the hallways are not the width of building A and B. So it looks like, kind of from an aerial view, it looks like two squares with a short line in between, like a short stick connecting them. Now, you don't ever have to leave the building to get to the other one, but it's interesting.
Sounds so
Building
stupid.
A was the mall. The fifth floor would have all these fancy sit-down restaurants. You could meet up with your friends before you go shopping. And then the fourth floor, luxury household goods, fancy wine glasses. Third floor, men's clothing. Second floor, women's clothing. First floor, foreign imported goods and cosmetics. Now, there are 4 basement levels. B2 through B4, they're more for like storage,
That sounds
machine
so
rooms, parking
stupid, though.
spaces. And B1 is kind of
I mean,
open
it might
to
have
the
been a
public.
good
It's a mall.
idea if they
So a lot
built
of
it,
Korean
right?
malls, they have supermarkets on the basement level. So you literally run all your errands. This is kind of genius. They also have cheaper food courts in the basement. So more like food stands. So B1 is open to the public, and there's always a lot of customers and workers shuffling in and out of that floor. Now, building B is more commercial real estate. So you got office buildings, you have a gym, but that's about it. Not a lot of foot traffic, not a lot of aesthetics. It looks like just your office plaza. Okay, so what's so wrong about it? Here's what's wrong about it. The escalators. Most buildings, and I never noticed this until I was researching this, but there's usually 2 escalators per floor.
Yes.
And like 2 going up, 2 going down, especially
is there
big
really?
malls. And I always thought, okay, so it's more people
think
can go
there
up and
is.
down the escalators, manage the traffic,
Could've
right?
sworn
And I'm
someone
sure
was
that
like,
plays a
there's only
role.
one,
But a
though.
big reasoning behind it is apparently having 2 escalators going up and down on either side helps distribute the weight better.
Okay.
Okay. Well, it's a thing, okay? Apparently having 2 escalators on a floor helps distribute the weight, making it safer. And Lee said, actually, no, that's so expensive. I just need 1.
What?
So he kept putting just 1 escalator on each floor. In massive buildings, especially commercial buildings, there are these giant rods in the middle of the open space. They're load-bearing columns. They're there to hold weight. So if you walk in to your local mall, you're going to see these giant round columns. It's drywalled. It looks pretty. But you're like, oh, why is this here? It's blocking my view. It's to hold
I
weight.
don't know if I ever noticed
Like, there's no
those,
way that you
so-
can have this massive room and just have 4 walls. Well, the original plan was to have 31-inch thick columns. It's about 2.5 feet thick. And inside, you can't see it because it's covered in drywall, but there's supposed to be 16 steel rods supporting the weight.
Oh.
Lee said, let's make the columns less than 2 feet thick because I don't like big columns. I want to be able to see the merchandise. And why
Is
do we
he
need
dumb?
16 steel rods? Let's do 8.
You're cutting it in
This is a
half.
huge deal. The steel rods are what's holding up the weight above it. People take lack of steel rods so seriously. Recently in Korea, a apartment building company, they put in less steel rods than they were supposed to. They were exposed for it, and now that building is called Boneless Chicken Apartment Building. Yeah.
There's still a
He
building.
literally
Yeah.
cut it in half.
Wow.
It's supposed to be 16.
So I think it's up to code,
supposed
but
to
it's
be its
not
whole
as
weight.
good
And he
or as
already
much as
added a
other
fifth
builders
floor,
do.
and
So
he
they're
wa-
called
oh my
Boneless
God,
Chicken
I
Apartment
can't.
Building.
To save money.
Because why are you
Why
not
are
like
people so
steel
fucking
rods?
stingy
Seriously?
When I had that fucking
Lee said that he
money?
hated the idea of thick columns, so let's cut it down. But that's not the only thing that he skimped out on cost. So this is going to get really complicated, but just like bear with me, it's so important. When you have a flat ceiling and a column right up against it, it's called flat slab construction. Or at least in Korean, that's what it's called. It looks modern, it's faster to build, it's cheaper, but it's definitely not safer. It can cause something called a punching phenomenon. Imagine you've got a piece of paper and you're holding it down on a pencil.
Mm-hmm.
The pencil could easily punch through into the piece of paper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, if you were to stick another circular piece of paper on the point of the pencil and then stick another paper on top, it's much harder for you to stick through, even though it's just paper. It's very hard to punch through 2 layers.
Oh,
That's
he's
the
doing a
drop
test on
panel.
it. That's kind of
That's what it's called. So think of it as instead of walking
like
through the
how
mud
you're
with
doing a
sneakers,
test.
you're walking through with heels. The difference is massive.
Yeah.
Your heels are going to poke into the soil.
Look, it's not falling.
But Lee, rich businessman, owner of a crazy lucrative construction company, says, should be okay.
No,
He knew that
it
this was a
shouldn't.
bad idea. He knew this was dangerous, but it saved him money. So he was all aboard. He said, you know what, it's fine, columns are strong. But they're not, especially when you take out half the steel rods. Like,
when you take out half the steel rods and you already have a fucking floor attitude that shouldn't even fucking be there, you think that cutting it in half is gonna be a good idea, my guy? Why are you so dumb? To save money, why are you so fucking stingy? Like, oh my god, why do people are get so this is why I hate people. This is why my faith in people is like leaving.
half the skeleton of the column is now gone. But the worst, the biggest hazard of this whole building was the 5th floor. It should not have existed.
Yeah, it shouldn't
the
even be
building
there.
was not designed to hold the weight of another floor.
Mm-mm.
It sounds like, it's just another floor, but that is an additional 25% of the overall weight added, if not more. That is huge. At first, he told his team it's going to be for a roller skating rink, which honestly would have been a lot safer.
It would've
Less
been
traffic,
fine.
not as much furniture, but instead, he said, you know what makes more money? Restaurants. Restaurants are insanely heavy.
God.
Commercial ovens, commercial walk-in freezers, industrial-sized refrigerators,
That stuff is
lots of
so
water.
heavy.
Lots of water is heavy.
So much weight.
Since there's going to be
More
multiple
weight that
kitchens on
you
that
shouldn't
floor,
have on the
you're
building.
talking AC up there is going to be intense. Restaurants are also more densely packed than a roller skating rink. The entire weight distribution and calculations were going off the walls. You know those big
You already shouldn't have the fifth floor, and on top of the 5th floor not even being there, let's make it so much more. Why do you want the most? That's probably the most heaviest room in the whole freaking building, and you wanted to put it on top? Are you what? Are you insane? Are you crazy?
big Amazon delivery trucks.
Uh-huh.
Well, the weight of the 5th floor was about 100 of those delivery trucks. Imagine parking 100
Oh
of
my
those on the
God.
roof where it should not be. That's just the 5th floor. That's not, and he wanted to do heated floors for the 5th floor, which added 2,415 tons of weight. Just for heated floors. And on top of that, there was even more. So the roof of the 5th floor on Building A were
Oh my
these giant
God.
AC cooling towers. They weighed 87 tons each. There's 3 of them, so the total of that, to visualize, imagine sticking 2 houses on top of the roof of a mall that is already unstable.
Literally.
This is, this
Literally.
is crazy. Just on top of the roof. Now, here's where things
This
go
is
really
already
wrong on the roof.
disaster.
So firstly, the AC towers on this specific roof is a death wish. The vibrations that the AC creates, it only further destabilizes the building's foundation. That's what causes cracks, vibration, movement.
Mm-hmm.
And so since the get-go, like opening day of this mall, they could see the red flags. The
Right.
vibrations and the weight of the heavy AC cooling towers, they were causing water leaks onto the 5th floor.
Oh my
Because the
God.
water would leak out of the AC, there would be a crack, and it would flow through. But the biggest atrocity of what they did on that roof, the AC towers were facing towards a nearby apartment building. All the residents of that apartment building were like, the AC towers are so loud. We're filing complaints. You got to do something about it. So they had to move the AC towers to the other side of the roof. Now, to do something like that, what do? You have to call in industrial cranes. You got to have a ton of professionals on site to make sure that it's done safely and securely.
Yes.
It's a pricey relocation. Lee,
Oh,
very wealthy
here we
mogul,
go with the fucking
said,
money again.
too expensive. Get a couple of dollies.
Wow. So they just scooped it over.
They didn't even scoop it because
Oh
there's
my
no
God, I
dollies that can
can't.
carry that much weight. They
can't.
basically dragged it.
You
And
what?
if you see pictures of that roof
Look at the fucking
from like
roof. It's
opening
cracked.
year, there's cracks all over.
Wow.
And
Oh my
now they
God.
move the
Fucking
ACs
money.
to
It's
the
all
other
about the
side.
fucking money.
And what do?
Stingy-ass
They
fucking
vibrate
people always
and cause
care about
even more cracking
care
now
more
to
about money
even
than
the
actual
other side
like
of the building.
safety. It's crazy.
Now here's where it gets kind of unexpected. This one I wasn't expecting at all. One of the first stores that opened up inside this mall actually contributed to the collapse. A bookstore.
Oh,
Did you
books are
know
heavy.
Korean books are even heavier than foreign books because they use a higher portion of stone powder in the paper? A year and a half after opening, the bookstore would be relocated from the second floor of the mall down to the basement
Books are so
because
much
that
more
bookstore was
heavy.
causing so much damage to the building from the sheer weight of the books
Literally.
and the shitty construction. If this had been a well-built building,
Like,
there
a
wouldn't
couple
have been
books
any
aren't
damage.
heavy, but when you
So
have like
they've
a
realized
library,
something is happening?
Yeah.
a library,
There were
so
cracks
many,
all
the
over the
books
second
are
floor.
So fucking heavy.
What?
There was bending in the floor. There was drooping in the floor. The floor was tilted where the bookstore was.
Wow. And nobody
Bro.
did anything.
No. The entire building started to lean a little bit.
Are you fucking serious?
And all it would take would be 20 seconds for the entire building to crumble.
Literally.
And literally not a single part of this rescue was easy. End of June in South Korea is typically a very rainy season. The rain was
This is
pouring
so
down
stupid,
on the rescue
bro.
efforts. I mean, in theory, it might have been good since
People
when
are-
a building
oh my God, I
collapses,
can't
there's
with
always small
people,
fires
bro.
trapped inside the rubble. You've got open electrical wires, you've got appliances, and poisonous gas, they start to spread, which, pretty quickly could kill any survivor that's trapped inside that manages to find an air pocket.
Right.
So the rain, in theory, would have been helpful, but it was just a massive inconvenience. Like, the rain was not enough to put out the fires, but it was enough to slow down the rescuers. Firemen had to come in and try to calm any potential flames. And the first 16 hours of rescue efforts, 5 people were rescued. So there was some progress. And unfortunately, one of the survivors would die on the way to the hospital.
Oh my God.
Then, 24 people who were trapped in the same air pocket were rescued. They were pulled out by rope. Nothing was going smoothly. I mean, they pulled them out, but there were still hundreds and hundreds of people that were unaccounted for.
There
And
was
the
1,000
rescuers were
people in the
nonstop
building when it
sprinting
went
from place
down,
to place.
bro.
They're crawling inside of holes that are already unstable. They're shimmying themselves through the collapsed basement level, squeezing past these broken shards of glass beams, like shining their flashlight into whatever nook and cranny they could find, screaming to see if anyone survived. They would dig holes the size of a kitchen sink and just start crawling in there. They put their lives in danger for every second that they were there because they just wanted to save people. A lot of the people in the mall, because it was a Tuesday afternoon, were young moms and children. The family members of the missing and the victims, they all gathered. They tried to help. Random civilians that had no family members in there, they were putting their lives on the line to help save people. Retired doctors grabbed their white coats and went to local hospitals because there were way too many people coming in. A ton of ajumas, middle-aged women, they were too old, too frail to dig, but they created these organized groups and they would cook for the thousands of rescuers every single day.
Aw.
But ultimately, the morale for the rescue teams was dying, which sounds bad because, how can your morale die when there's a chance that others need saving, right?
But it's
But
because you
they're
probably
working
see,
themselves to the
you
edge
probably see
physically
so much
and mentally
dead
every
people,
single
though,
day.
that
And
it,
all
like,
they're
makes
getting
you,
after
like,
the first
yeah.
initial groups of survivors is bad news.
literally,
They're
like,
just getting bad
your
news.
morale
Another
starts to
body,
go
another
down when
body,
you keep
another body.
seeing so much
10
bad
days had
stuff.
passed, and it's the rule of 3. Do you know the rule of 3?
No.
No.
3 minutes without oxygen, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food, and you'll die.
So
It
3
had
minutes
been
without
10
oxygen,
days.
3 days without
No
water,
food,
and 3 weeks
no
without
water, limited
food.
oxygen, and potentially injuries on top of all of that. The rescuers thought, okay, maybe it's time to go from rescue to recovery. The faster, the better. July is peak monsoon season. It's only going to get worse. We got to go. People said you could smell rotting corpses even if you were blocks away from the site.
God damn.
They started bringing in the
blocks
heavy
away?
machinery. The chief of police asked all the family members who were still present at that site, come on, we got to do one last go before we bring in the machines. Call your loved ones.
Right.
We can't hear anyone. Maybe we can hear their phone. And so all of them are
Oh.
standing around with their phone, calling their missing loved ones. And they're just trying to listen, but they can't hear a single thing. The U.S. actually would donate these sound detectors to help rescue.
Okay, hold up, bro. So they're trying to call them, right? Bro, if once again, if I was in this situation, because I work, I work a lot, like 5 days a week. My phone is always on fucking silent. So you would try to call me, and you wouldn't even hear anything because all my phone would be doing is. That's all it would do. It's basically okay. I'm about to take my phone off silent right now. It's gonna go off and scare the shit out of me though. Watch. It's gonna go off now and make a notification. It's gonna scare me.
Yours fine, the phone's underneath. The Korean government was already equipped with heat sensors, which is typically used to locate bodies. But the heat sensors, they work with infrared light. And when it rains, the raindrops scatter the infrared.
Oh, yeah.
And it becomes wildly inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
11 days had passed. And now rescuers were like, okay, no one survived. So let's bring in the machinery. Michael thought that he was going to die in there. But on the 11th day of rescue, a rescuer stopped. He blinked. He scrambled, grabbed his flashlight from his back pocket, and flashed it into the hole. Hello? Is anyone there? And he put his ear up against the hole, and this tiny little voice says, I'm here.
Oh my
The
god,
other
they found
rescuers, they
Michael.
don't even believe him. So he's like, come, come, come. And they all make him say, I'm here again. And everyone starts swarming. I mean, 11 days in, they had to penetrate an extra 4 feet of thick reinforced concrete to get him out.
Oh my god.
He was out at 8:30 a.m., 230 hours after the collapse.
Damn.
He was carried out on a stretcher,
Oh,
and he
look
waved
at them. They all look so
for the
happy.
cameras. Volunteer rescue workers, they're all cheering, they're all clapping. I mean, this was the victory that they needed. They're like, take the machines off. We're going back to hand. If Michael survived, there could be others.
Right.
Meanwhile, Gia did not share this excitement. She thought she was going to die. For the past few days, the concrete on top of her face was coming closer and closer and closer. It was pure torture.
Oh, hell
The air was
no.
getting stuffier and she felt panic. The walls are literally closing in on
Oh,
her.
hell no.
But in the slowest way
handle that.
possible, she wanted to scream like, oh my God, just squish me already.
Wait, she's the
Literally.
25-year-old?
No,
Oh.
a different worker, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Now, the anxiety of it about to come down was worse than just dying, she said. I mean, she was buried in a pile of concrete, laying on her back, so her legs were trapped under a concrete pole, and she was thankfully in an air pocket, but she can't move. So at first, Gia is screaming her head off, hoping that people can hear her. She's like, hello, I'm here. But nobody came. So she just said she kept falling asleep. That's all she could do. I don't know if her brain
Bro.
forced her to sleep. She just said,
Imagine falling asleep and every time you like wake up, the thing that the buildings or rocks or whatever that's above you, every time you like fall asleep and wake up, it gets closer and closer and closer. I could not deal with that, bro. That would scare. I would go into panic attacks. I couldn't. I'm a very anxious person. It doesn't take a lot for me to get anxious.
I kept falling asleep. I kept dreaming that
I
I
have
was
bad
home.
anxiety
I just wanted to go home.
and social anxiety.
And I kept thinking, oh my God, my dad is sick. My mom is worrying about me. And now I'm going to be even a bigger burden. 58 hours passed. So like 2.5 days in. Remember the rule of 3? 3 minutes, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. 2.5 days in, she's so thirsty. At this point, she can't even think about anything but her thirst. And water starts flowing. And she takes a sip and she immediately coughs it out. She had rust water coming in. She
Ugh.
waited till more water came in, and instead of letting it flow directly into her mouth because it tasted so disgusting and rusty, she grabbed a piece of her clothing, soaked it in the water, and then just kind of wet her lips with it.
I told you my phone was
She
scaring
had
me.
no idea how
Bring
many
it back
days had
on
passed. All
silent.
she knew was she was starting to hallucinate. The part where her legs were trapped, she felt like her legs were walking. She felt like her legs were floating at one point when it clearly
I just
wasn't.
jumped
She
from
was
my
like
fucking
losing
phone.
her mind. She was losing sensation in her legs. She just kept going back to sleep. And then the next thing she knew, there's heavy machine sounds and the concrete's just getting closer and closer and closer.
Oh, so they were about
Would
to
they
kill
push
her.
the concrete until it completely suffocated her? Would they push the concrete till it squished her? Like, what's going to happen? Would the excavator just come down and rip her up? Her bottom legs are stuck, so she'd be ripped in
Hey,
half.
good goblin.
Gia felt
Sorry I didn't
terror.
make it to your stream.
Sheer
I was literally
terror.
napping.
She only had like 10 inches left when
Feeling
all
better?
of a sudden
Nope.
she hears
Not
a
really.
voice. Stop! Do
little
you hear
bit.
something?
But not really.
At around 2 p.m. on the 13th day,
Wow.
A
I still feel
rescuer
like shit. And
saw
I still
her
sound
foot,
like shit too.
and they yelled, "If you're alive, move your feet!"
My nose is stuffy.
Gia tried to
I
wiggle her
got a
toes, but she
cough.
didn't even know if it was wiggling because she lost sensation a long time ago. And she screamed, "Save
It was
me!"
a Spanish stream.
The
off
rescuer
a short one.
clawed through the cement by hand,
Okay.
and
I
Gia
heard
just
I think
remembered
were you
thinking,
playing
"Ah,
Phasmophobia?
I'm found."
Damn, don't
She
die,
said it
dog. I'm
wasn't,
not.
"Ah, I lived."
Just got a cough.
She didn't say it was, "Ah, I
and
survived." She just thought, "I'm
My nose
found."
is all plugged up.
Good. I don't care if I die right now.
Got probably
Because at least they found my body, so my mom
because
will
it's making
know.
breathing.
Her
not
mom
as
was later
easy.
interviewed and asked, like, what is the first thing you want to say to your daughter? And she said, "Do I even need to say anything?" And they were trying to ask, like, did you think your daughter was dead? Because it had been 13 days. And they said, did you think she had? And her mom stops the journalist and says, "No, I didn't think that.
It's
I'll never
supposed
think
to
that
be,
because
bro.
the day
Please,
she
I don't
dies
want
is
to be
the
able
day
to.
I
I don't
die."
want to. I don't. I don't want to talk. I don't want to talk over it. I can make it louder, but I just don't want my voice to be over the video.
After 285 hours, Gia was rescued. And at that point,
Like the
the
thing
shooting
with the
was so
new
low, it
mic
was
is like
catching
I don't
her
know.
nerves. She was not even inches,
With the
but
right volume is so
centimeters
you
away
could hear
from
the
death.
video or you could
And
not hear
everyone was
me.
like, okay,
So I don't want to be
that's
my voice
crazy,
talking
right?
over
But
the
there's no way
video.
there's gonna be more survivors.
Also, my
There's
voice
only
might
so
sound a
many
little bit lower because
miracles
it
that the
sounds like
universe can
shit
give
right now
us.
because I'm sick.
On the 15th day, another woman is rescued. Let's call her Sammy. She was trapped in a small pocket of air in the
I have
children's clothing
phasmophobia?
section.
I
She heard the
do.
voice of her colleague screaming, "Help me!" And she just kept screaming, panicking.
I do
"Help me,
indeed
there's
have
this
that game.
concrete pinning my waist down." She was getting crushed. And there was no
I
way
sure
Sammy could even get to
do.
her. And she tried telling her, "It's okay, it's okay." But after a day or two, there was no more noise. Sammy said,
Collab
all she
when?
did was try and fall asleep. She had no idea how long she was in there.
We could do a collab
Sammy
next
would be the
weekend
last survivor found in the rubble. There would
if
be
you want.
no more miracles after that. Before we get to the depressing recovery, South Korea did try to bring up the morale of the country and the three survivors. So Michael, Gia, and Sammy almost became these beacons of hope.
Sounds good for me.
people.
All right.
Michael was seen as this national hero.
Just keep in
for
touch over
not only somehow miraculously
Twitter, I
surviving
guess,
in the
so
rubble
we
for
can
11
make
days, but also his iconic
for the time and
wave on the
stuff.
stretcher. Companies started offering him gigs to model for them. Schools were offering the three full ride scholarships.
Goddamn.
There had been this stereotype that the younger generation were weak and not as tough as their parents in South Korea, but this was completely obliterated, this idea. And just like Michael, Gia, the one who survived 13 days, she made headlines because when she was pulled out of there, reporters
Is it
asked
just
her while she
Olga
was on the
Goblin on
stretcher, "How do
Discord?
you feel? Any plans now that you've been
If
saved?"
I could just do
And she
that
said,
then.
"I want to go on a date with the oppa that rescued me." And people thought it was such an unhinged, hilarious,
Yeah.
fun
All right.
answer to such a serious, depressing situation.
Do it now so I don't forget.
The
'Cause I know
last three
me.
survivors were asked, "What food do you want to eat the most?" Michael said, "Coca-Cola. I want to drink an ice cold Coke."
What food would I want to
Gia
eat the
said,
most?
"Iced coffee." Sammy said, "I just want some ice cream."
Waffles.
Every soda, iced coffee, ice cream brand went nuts trying to sign these three
All
for brand
right.
endorsements. Gia also kept making jokes. Like, nobody knew if
But
they
at the
could keep
same time, I
laughing
feel
or
like
not. When she was
at the same time, I feel like I would not. If I was in this situation, there's on so many occasions where I feel like I would not be able to survive. I want cocoa milk, but there's no cocoa milk. Oh no.
rescued, she complained, "Why'd you guys come so fast? I could have stayed there a few days
No
longer.
chocolate milk.
Let me go back in there." Michael had to have his head shaved to run some tests, and he was so embarrassed. Anytime reporters ran into his hospital room, he would put on his little beanie, his little hat. And I think that these are the stories that people wanted to focus on because the other side was just so dark.
Right.
Side note, almost all the rescues, especially the ones that weren't immediate, they were all subground level.
Sad
so
night,
they were all in
yeah.
the basement. The other floors, I mean, this is a picture of what it looked like. There was no way that people were going to survive that collapse unless maybe you were on the roof, which probably not even that.
Yeah, so even if you were on
the
a roof,
magnet
I feel like
working
you
on the
wouldn't
restaurant floor,
survive
the fifth
that.
floor, he was rescued pretty early on. He had made it kind of basically out. I think he was hit by just some debris. And he said, "Every single person I spoke to that day,
There,
the head
I
chef,
added
my
you.
colleagues, customers, I would later see all their names written on the deceased list." Another survivor said, "I just don't understand the point of life anymore. Like, the people that died, there were nice people. There were really rich people. There were workers like me. There were people who went to church. There were people who studied really hard.
Or kids.
Yet everyone
Kids
died without
too.
even a chance to fight for their lives. So what is the point of anything at all?
1,000 people in this
Families
building
of
when it
victims
went
said the
down,
nightmare
bro.
was just never ending.
And half of them
I
did
do
not
wanna
make it out.
say that the rescue efforts were admirable. The rescuers, they did everything, but the system itself was flawed. Korea didn't have a strong system to respond to
Because
these
the
types of
one man
crises,
wanted to save fucking
which, like,
money.
I don't know if they still
Wanted
do
to prioritize
after
money
Itaewon
over
and
fucking
Seoul, but
safety.
at the time, it was so
Ooh,
disorganized.
people
Family
piss
had
me
no
off.
idea if loved ones were alive, survived, deceased, at a hospital, which hospital. Nobody had a clue. The site was left open for people to just come and volunteer. And so a lot of people did come and volunteer, but there were also a lot of hyenas. What do you think the hyenas did? They were dubbed hyenas by the media. About 400 hyenas were arrested during rescue efforts. Families are crying. Rescuers are risking their
Oh my God.
lives.
They're stealing stuff.
They're pretending to help and stealing designer goods.
Wow.
When one was arrested,
How are
they
you
just
gonna
callously
fucking do
responded,
this in a
well,
time
they were
like
all
this?
gonna go to
You're
the
supposed to be saving
dump
people, but
anyway.
you're gonna steal stuff.
Another
Like, what is
man was
wrong
caught
with people?
volunteering wearing 10 pairs of designer pants. 10 pairs. When asked, why the hell were you stealing 10 pairs of designer pants? He said, what are you talking about? I was saving
Stealing
lives and I
stuff
got
when people
cold
are
in the
dying
middle
is
of June.
crazy.
So I just put on whatever was near me. Meanwhile, Mr. Jung was at work when the building fell. He's an attorney, and he didn't hear about it until way later. He was at a 회식 with his coworkers, and they were drinking, they're eating, and he just had this pit in his stomach when people were like, oh, you didn't hear about the mall? So his wife and his 3 adult daughters, they loved going to that mall. So he calls his wife. She picks up, and he's like, oh, my God, thank God. Okay, you're home, right? Are the girls home? Did you hear about what happened at the department store? She's like, what? No, the girls are there shopping. Mr.
Oh,
Jung's coworker said
no.
that. He didn't even say anything. 1 minute he was on the phone, the next minute
His
he
daughters
was out
were
the
there
door. He ran
shopping
on
when it
foot
went
to the department
down.
store, and all he saw was rubble. He started climbing on the rubble in his suit, just clawing, looking for his girls. He went to every single hospital in the city. He talked to nurses, doctors, looked at hospital morgues. The day after the collapse, he would be told that all 3 of his children were dead.
Not even a
And he
single
said,
one made it
after what my wife
out,
and I went through
bro.
that day, I
That's
just hope that the
so
sky would fall and the earth
sad.
would give out and we would just all die. And of course, he feels for every single daughter, but he really felt for his eldest because she had fought and beaten all odds. His eldest daughter went blind when she was 12 years old. She worked
I
harder
just had to wipe
than
some tears out of my eyes,
anyone he
bro.
knew. Harder than all of his adult coworker colleagues, attorneys combined. She ended up getting her master's in special education at UC Berkeley in the United States. She came back to teach special education at Seouldae, which is the best school in the entire country. And her dad said she couldn't see in front of her, but she just always had a vision. And she fought all these odds to be here, and now she's gone. There was another family, the Lee family, and Mom Lee, Mrs. Lee. She was telling her daughter for months, like, give up the dreams of the department store. And her daughter told her, no, if I'm going to be a fashion designer, I can't just rent a small shop anywhere. I have to make a big statement. I'm going to get foot traffic. I know it's a lot of money, but I've saved up my entire life savings. I'm going to rent this tiny little shop. It's my dream. And she signed the lease 2 months before the collapse.
Oh,
And
my
Mrs. Lee said all
God.
that nagging she did, completely forgot about it. Because
My
the minute that she
eyes.
saw her daughter in that shop, just how much passion she had for what she was doing, how could she not support her? She was at her shop when the building went down. And this part is so dark, but it feels really raw. A lot of families reported feeling shame and guilt afterwards, because they were all there, and when survivors were being found, they would see survivors reunite with their families, and they said they would feel intense jealousy.
I could understand
'Cause
that.
it's only human.
Yes, it's only
And then
human.
immediately they would feel so ashamed for feeling so jealous, and it made them feel so gross. But they had this like, ugh, that should be me. So after the last remaining survivors were rescued, the government decided they needed to start clearing out the debris. They said it was dangerous to just have it out in the open, so they just started moving the rubble to dump sites. and a lot of victims have not been found yet. So families were at dump sites by themselves, no rescue workers, digging through the rubble. At that point,
That's so
some of them only
sad.
found bones. And if there was any flesh, they were unrecognizable. This mall had been built 6 years ago. It wasn't even around for, I mean, you go and you look at houses in LA, there's houses from like 1920s still up for sale. So for it to collapse, injuring over 900 people, killing 502 people, and resulting in 40 people that are still considered missing to this day, it doesn't make sense. The
No,
public is like,
it's
we want
crazy.
answers. It was revealed that the building was not attacked by North Korea or a group of terrorists. There was no earthquake, no natural disaster. The building went down on its own.
Because it
so
was
obviously
built
there's some sort of
shitty.
human error. So they found the owner, the Lee family, and journalists start hounding him with questions.
They need to
And
lock
look,
that
the way
fucking
this
guy
man
up.
answers
Lock
questions
this
does not
thug
help
up,
him in the
bro.
eyes of the public.
Lock him
They
up.
said, "Did you do a safety inspection on the building?" Mr.
Anybody
Lee said,
who
"Look here. We've got many people coming in and out of this building. Do you really, think about it. Do you really think if we knew that the building was going to go down, we would keep it open?"
Yes,
Of course
yes
we
I
did safety
do.
checks.
Because
It
you're
was
fucking
received by the president of the building.
pricks,
I am the
pricks.
owner. I only attend
I'm the
meetings once a
owner.
week.
You're not a
So
very
you'd have
good
to ask
one.
management to clear up those answers. In other words, we have no motive to keep the mall open if we knew it was going to collapse.
Yes, you
But as
do.
a company, it's not just about injury to customers. It's about company property. He's comparing 502 people dying to losing a mall. Like, I think it's clear what he's trying to
That's
say.
so
Like, of course,
dumb.
everything was great and we knew nothing about this, because think about it. From our standpoint, would it be logical to ignore such a big safety concern if it would ruin our company? But the delivery
You
was
don't even
disgusting, and
care.
nobody believed him. He would also try to argue that if the building was so dangerous, why was he in Building B when it collapsed?
But he
This-
survived.
Building B did not collapse because Building B had sturdier columns because it wasn't a mall. So they
Yeah,
didn't
see,
need
like
to
if you saw the
display
pictures,
merchandise.
only that one
They
part of the
didn't have
building
all
was
this
collapsed.
heavy machinery. There was, like,
Building
no one
B
in there
wasn't
also.
collapsed, only building
They
A
didn't even have
was.
the massive AC units on the roof. And this whole argument backfired when it was revealed the reason that Mr. Lee was even in Building B to begin with was because there was an emergency meeting about whether or not the mall should be evacuated.
Oh my god, I hate this guy
That's
right.
what they were
Lock
doing,
this thug up.
debating whether or not to close the mall.
Lock
when
this
the
prick
mall
up, bro.
collapsed. The meeting lasted for hours and executives were
I want him
arguing.
gone.
So Lee and his son, who is the president of the mall, they were arguing that it's going to be bad for business.
Fuck
The
your
board of
business.
executives were arguing it doesn't matter because if the building collapses or even if a ceiling falls through and a customer gets injured, that's going to be bad for business.
Literally.
A few executives left mid-meeting because they got calls of complaints by store owners that like ceilings were crumbling. Literally during the meeting, they left. They went to investigate. They went onto the rooftop. One of the executives saw one of the columns punching through the roof. He turned to his colleague and said, "Get everyone out now.
Literally.
Lee, I don't care. Get him out." They were on the way downstairs when the building went down.
Oh my
The other executives in the
god.
Lee family were still arguing when all hell broke loose.
How are you still Look, I know I get it. They don't okay, they don't know the building's going down, but the fact that they're still arguing about not shutting the building going down as it's going down is I can't even like wrap my mind around it. Like they're so fucking lock them up. Both of them. The owner and the son. Lock them both up because oh my god. They don't care about the lights that were lost. All they cared about was saving a couple bucks, not caring that it wasn't built safe. They don't care, and it's so fucking disgusting. Oh my god. Oh, I need to breathe.
People are sprinting towards exits. People were being pushed into clothing racks because now you could hear the groaning. Like once that
Is this
groaning
actual
hit, you had
footage of
20
it?
seconds to get out. Some people were in their underwear just making a run for it. They had been caught in the middle of changing. Now they're booking it. If Lee
I would not
hadn't
be able to
had
make my
more costs
way out.
and had
I
there
have
been more
asthma. I'm not
escalators, more
fast.
stairwells,
I'm
more
here, but
emergency
lurking.
exits,
By the way, all right,
more
all
people could
right.
have been saved. Because now there was almost a crowd crush situation.
I don't know
happening.
if you were say like you were on any of these floors and you had 20 seconds to get out. Do you think that you could make it out in 20 seconds? I don't care what you do. You could be mid shit, mid change. You could literally be naked and you have to run out. I wouldn't even care. But I don't even think I could make it out that fast. I have asthma, bro. I'd be like, like, I don't even know. Like, even if I could make it out, by the time I get out, I'm like, I can't breathe. This is insane. Because I'm not very strong. I feel like someone would push me over so fast. And I'd be like, wait. I'd be laying there on the ground as people are stepping on me. Because I got pushed over by some fat fuck. Like, I don't even know, man.
On top of the collapse, a domino effect took over. The 5th floor ceiling fell through, and now it was on the 4th floor,
Oh my god.
holding the weight. But that was about to crumble, and then soon the 3rd floor, and it would just all pancake in
You were there.
20 seconds.
Oh, I want to sing
Nobody
about the
had a
people who were
warning.
in the building.
It looks like one of those aluminum soda cans that you step on.
Bro, look at
The
that.
executives in the Lee family heard. They ran out, ran to the hallway, and it's just a cliff. And they see the building on the ground. But still, Chairman Lee acts like he knew nothing. Okay, whenever he was interviewed by journalists, he would make it about himself. One journalist asked if he had anything he wanted to say to the victims' families, and he just said, "Do you think I wanted this to happen? I have nothing to say."
So
What's crazy
disgusting.
about all of this and this whole family is that
Disgusting
Lee's
behavior.
daughter-in-law, so the president of the mall, his son's wife, was in the building when it was collapsed. She was rescued early on. She refused to give her name to rescuers, and people thought that was weird. The rescuers were like, "What?
Bro.
Like, you don't want your family to know that you're
Oh
okay?"
my god, I can't.
Everyone
It keeps
that
getting
could
better and
talk
better.
was giving their name so that your families can find you. But the very next day, they saw that same woman they rescued on the news standing next to her husband and her father-in-law, showing her full support.
How? How can you support that after being in
So
it?
a
Oh my
full
god, I can't.
investigation on the cause of the collapse
I
was
can't.
ordered by the government, and it revealed a lot. I mean, obviously, it revealed all of the things that I've mentioned before, but on top of that, Chairman Lee was known to constantly change the interior of the mall, like he was just changing clothes. He would rip out perfectly acceptable lighter wood floors and put in super heavy marble flooring. He did
Why?
not care about durability. He wanted it to look
At this
expensive
point,
because
oh my
more people
god, at
would
this point
come
you're
and they would
literally
shop and he
like,
would make more money.
you don't know
That's all
the,
he
he don't know
wanted,
what the fuck,
more
he's never.
money. He would knock
I
down
can't even say-
interior walls
I can't.
to like make more space for merchandise. And with all the new renovations, there were more customers. And it's not like the building crumbled out of nowhere. There were literal bright red warning signs that the Lee family and the executives, they were made aware of. 2 months before the collapse, a thin line emerged on the ceiling of the
Look
5th
at that.
It was more of an eyesore than anything.
Look
But
at it.
every now and then, tinkle tinkle, there'd be dust landing on people's faces coming from that crack. Like, that's kind of crazy.
And how
You're
did the
dining at the
customers
restaurants,
like
your
think that
chopsticks
was
would slowly
bad?
roll to the side and
I
off
would
the
have said
table
something
because
if I
the
was
floor was
customer. I
tilting,
would have
but
been
all
like,
the customers thought,
look at that.
"Oh man, what's wrong with this table?" No one thought it was the floor. No one thought it was the building that was leaning.
I would have.
Workers on the
I
restaurant
don't know if I would have thought
they
it was
would
the
put in a
building or
container
something,
of
but I
raw
would have
veggies
definitely thought
on the
something was
fridge
wrong
shelf.
with the place
It's like an
and
industrial
said something,
walk-in
or I
fridge.
don't know.
They would walk back in and it's like slid all the way to the wall. They'd put it next to the door. It slid all the way down to the wall, like 5 feet down to the wall.
No,
Why would it be sliding?
literally,
That didn't make any sense.
no.
The floor of the 5th floor was tilted at a 15-degree angle. The tilting got so bad the 5th floor restaurants had to be closed. They requested civil engineers to be called in for an inspection. And the main person that called was Lee's son. So he's there with the inspectors. And they're like, yeah, this building is in imminent danger of collapse. The only option that you have in situations like this is to evacuate, close the entire building down, and we can game plan on what the next steps are.
And you could have done
They
that.
already
You
know this
had the
before.
fucking
Way
money.
before, like 2 months before.
You're
And
just
he's like, okay,
stingy.
okay. Let me think about it. He didn't think about it. Instead, he hired workers to just hide the cracks by adding more grout and plaster. He was like, as long as the customers don't see, because this month was crucial for them. June and July were the summer sale months. This is another illegal thing that they're doing. In South Korea, you can only have a sale for 2 weeks.
Lock these
I don't
pricks
know why.
up,
I
bro.
guess it's so that stores can't like try to manipulate you into like buying things, right? 2 weeks. The sale is scheduled for July when everybody else has the sale. But the Lees were like, we can be smart. We're going to get our VIP clients early access. So we're going to sell them the product since they're our VIPs, we know them, and we're only going to run their card at the sale prices in July. But they can come during June. And they had a lot of VIPs. So June was a very busy, high traffic month for them. Crazy busy.
See, all they care about is the
10
fucking
days
money.
before the collapse, a customer was sitting at their table on the 5th floor to eat, and the whole thing started shaking. She said it was so strange. She thought it was an earthquake or something. But when she told her friends that weren't at the mall, they were like, what are you talking about? There was no earthquake. There was nothing on the news. 5 days before the collapse, another customer was on the 5th floor eating when it felt like someone doused a bucket of water on their head.
Oh, hell
And
no.
she's like, what the hell? Looks up. There is like a droopy hole. It's not even just a hole, but like a part of the ceiling that's drooping down at the end. There's a hole. The employees were made aware of it.
Bro.
They tell upper management.
Are you
and they're like,
serious?
it's just Sampung's shitty construction. They did not think that water leaks were even in the same possibility as a building collapsing.
I get
The
that,
night
but you could have
before the
thought
collapse,
something
the
was
security guard
wrong, bro.
noticed the sinkhole on
Something.
the roof. And he
Anything.
called Lee's son and was like, sir, there's a literal sinkhole on the roof. And apparently the son went himself to check it out. And while he's standing there, staring at this giant hole, one of the managers of the restaurant comes out and is like, hey, I've been trying to call you for ages now. Look at this shit. Look, can I show you something? They walk over to one of the columns on the 5th floor near his restaurant. There's an 8-inch long crack that's knuckle deep.
Bro.
But that's not even all. The manager is like, I've been waiting for this, okay? I'm paying all this money. And look at that ceiling. Look at that ceiling above the kitchen. It's droopy. And look. He puts his phone on the counter, like the cash register of the restaurant. It slides off. He's like, I know
He
it's on
should
the
have shut
counter,
it
so what's going on?
down.
Lee's son
This
checks
is so
his watch.
bad.
Shoot. The stores are about to open for the day. Okay, just why don't we close down all the restaurants on this floor? I guess if you want to stay open, you can stay open, but it's fine. Close down.
Shut it
We're gonna figure it
down.
out.
Fix
We'll
it
send up
up.
maintenance or
Do
something.
something. Be
Maintenance
smart.
workers were sent up.
Stop being
and they're like, guys,
stingy.
this shit is gonna go down.
Lives are,
Like,
are
under no
fucking
circumstances can we
endangering. They
put
don't
plaster on anything
care.
anymore. Like, it's gonna go down. Lee's son left the building for about 30 minutes before he was called back in. This time to the 4th floor. A shop owner said, I just heard these like really crazy like tuck, tuck, tuck noises, and then the whole floor shook for like 3 minutes. They're like, isn't that right?
3
Susie's
minutes,
like, 3
bro?
minutes. And Susie's like, yeah, 3 full minutes. Lee's son is like, okay, let me investigate, right? Before he could even figure it out, water starts pouring down the walls of the 5th floor. That's why they turned off the AC units. He said, you know what?
Oh my
Don't close
God.
them all. Turn off the AC units and drain the water inside of them because that's what's leaking.
Oh my
And then
god,
4
I
hours
can't.
before the collapse, evacuation orders were given. Lee's son said, let's focus on what
Don't cut
matters.
it down. Get it off the
Don't
air.
tell
We
the
should be
customers,
fine.
But
Oh my
let's
God,
take out all the priceless goods.
no.
Paintings, artwork, jewelry, ancient pottery, super expensive bags.
So
Let's take it out just in case. We don't
disgusted.
know. It could flood. It could do something. Customers, employees, they were not evacuated. They
course
had
they
no idea
weren't.
they were in a compromised building.
Yes, they didn't even know they were in danger.
Why?
Which is even more
unbelievable. It's
fucked
the
up.
Guy's doing everything in his power to kill people.
Why did they not evacuate? Because the mall was bringing in about $400,000 a day. And they said, we can't lose out on that.
Fuck the money.
Many of the victims died on impact. Others suffocated to death. Others bled out. Some starved to death. And a lot of them drowned to death.
That's crazy.
When firefighters were trying to put out the fires inside the rubble, the water came in and filled their air pockets. Some of the other survivors could hear them drowning. And
Oh my
the
god.
firefighters that worked that scene, I don't think it's their fault. I think they did their best considering the information and tools they were given. But they still have PTSD. They have nightmares about it. They said they will carry around the guilt for the rest of their lives.
Bro, that's crazy.
In the end, the court sentenced Lee Jun, the chairman, to 7.5 years in prison.
Only seven and
his
a
son
half
got 7.
years?
You look
What?
so shocked, right? But this was actually a big deal. This is what's even crazier about this case, okay? Is the fact that, to me, I'm like, 7 years, that's nothing, right?
Literally.
In Korea, this was landmark. This was crazy that they got 7 years. I mean, people, don't get me wrong, people were still upset it wasn't enough, but a lot of people being very cynical, skeptical, and just realistic, they weren't expecting the Lee family to get any jail time. Not saying that they didn't deserve it, but that was the track record for the government. The reason why they got a lengthy jail time, lengthy quote, is really dark. It's a high-end department store. A lot of the victims were wives of influential businessmen. To just name a few, and not saying that these people's
because
lives
they
don't
had
have
money.
value, but to give context on whose families were fighting for these offenders to get jail time, wife of Samsung Electronics president, wife of Daewoo Motors
Wait,
president,
wife of the Samsung.
division, electronics division.
Oh, okay, okay.
These are really
Yeah,
important people
advisor
then.
to Samsung Motors and former head of Korea's Customs Service, advisor to Samsung Engineering and Construction, executive for Hyundai Engineering and Construction, wives of high-powered attorneys, judges, and doctors, a judge's mother. I mean, these were just a few to name. Many of these were the upper echelon of society. These were the elites.
They know
And they
elites,
still only got
basically.
7 years.
Yes, and the worst
But still,
part
only
is
7 years
netizens
is
speculate,
crazy.
had this been a middle-class mall or a lower-class mall, they
But-
probably would have gotten no jail time.
But why though? What?
Because they have
How
money.
is that?
The people who don't have money don't care.
How?
Fucking, that's so sick.
I guess it was a blame shifting game. So Lee's family would actually shift the blame on government workers that they bribed. So they would say, hey, we didn't pass our safety inspection, but just say we did. And about 30 government workers were fired and arrested.
That's
as well.
crazy.
So because there were so many people to blame,
That's
it became this
insane.
game of like, who's really at fault? Was it the gatekeeper, the government workers that didn't make sure that the safety inspections were up to date? Was it the yeah? I
Excuse
don't.
me?
Send
I
all
know.
of them to jail.
Yeah.
500 people died.
I agree. Lee was 72 when he got out. He died a year later, so
Good.
I'm not too sad about that. Meanwhile, Lee's son, June, is one of the very few families in South Korea, many we've talked about, that are basically socially exiled. They're legally allowed to be in Korea, but he is said to have been spotted living in Russia.
We don't want you here.
We
That's,
don't know for
basi-
sure, but
that's
like,
basically what they're saying is,
South Korea.
we don't want you
I mean, that's
here.
so
he's
happy.
still
Step foot in
around,
here,
Yeah.
and we will
But he's
do,
free.
like, we hate,
Yes,
like,
but I
and-
think that he has no money.
I
I
hate
don't know if he
people.
had a lot of hidden money, but the family's fortune was completely liquidated and given to the survivors and victims.
Oh, not you, not
It's
you.
estimated that each family
That was a bad
received
timing to
around,
say that when you came back. I
250,000.
wasn't talking about
There's a
you,
lot
Good
of
Goblin.
people, which honestly is nothing compared to the life of a loved one.
I
trust
wasn't,
me, this is
I wasn't
not a
talking
story where
about you. I'm
victims' families
talking
get
about the
closure.
video.
500
It's got me
plus people
heated.
died. Like, that's a tragedy that is going to be felt nationwide. I mean, think about the spider web of people.
Oh,
that are
I
either
wasn't talking
directly or
about you, not you,
indirectly
not you.
impacted by this level of loss. Well, the president of South Korea was asked to say something to the victims, and he said, "The collapse of this Hampung department store today was 21 days ago. I wish for peace for those who lost their precious lives. I pray for the speedy recovery and for those who were injured, and I express my condolences to the families who suffered an unexpected accident. Thank you." He's at his podium, okay? He stands still for maybe 2 seconds, and he thinks that the camera is off now. And he turns to his aide and says, "That should be enough, right?"
That's so
감사합니다.
fucking sick.
그럼 되겠지.
They
It wasn't
don't
even in the tone of
care,
like,
bro.
"Oh, do you think I should say more? Like, was
Twitch isn't working at
was
all?
that,
What do you
did I
mean?
convey my emotions correctly? It was like a 됐지, like I did it. Happy. Let's go.
Literally,
Yeah.
they don't
A
care.
lot of the victims' families were upset at the government and even the rescue operations, not the rescue workers, but the operation. They felt like the government wanted to throw some money at the victims' families, start cleaning up the rubble, and make use of the land again.
Literally.
The victims' families requested a memorial. Not to give a comparison, but later on this comparison does come up a lot in Korean media sources. But like 9/11 in the US, I mean, that is crazy real estate if you think about it. That is prime real estate. But out of respect for the tragedy, there is a memorial there. You go there to, you remember these families, you remember these victims, everyone that lost their lives. But the government said, this is such a good area of Gangnam. It's like center. Like every time someone drives through here, they're gonna have to be reminded of that.
Oh
And,
my
like, what about the
fucking
real estate
god.
prices of all the people who spent so much money on condos nearby? It's gonna go down if we have a memorial here. So they said, "We'll
How?
give you a memorial." So the family said, "Okay, then can you give it to us at this park? That's a very famous park that people love to go to, and it's a beautiful park. We can go there and spend time with our loved ones." But that park is so pretty.
Oh
People will
my
be so depressed
god.
if they go there and they see 500 something
Oh my
names.
god.
What about in the woods? They literally gave them a memorial
In
in
no
the middle
fucking
of nowhere.
woods?
Like, just
How
in the mountains.
disrespectful can you be?
And they built a luxury apartment building.
Oh my
Right.
god. I hope that shit's haunted. I
South
hope
Department store?
wherever they put that apartment store, I hope it's haunted. And I hope that anybody who stays there cannot have a good night's sleep. They hear things all the time, shit falling, everything. I hope it's haunted, bro. I swear to fucking God.
One of the victims' families was interviewed, and the mom said, "It's money, money, money.
Literally.
Building costs this money. Cleanup costs that money. Compensation costs money. Let's give money to the victims. Everything is about money, and nothing is about my child."
Literally. It's so fucked
Remember
up.
Mr. Zhang? Speaking of money, he lost 3 daughters in the collapse, and his eldest daughter was the blind professor at Seouldae. He was compensated over $600,000 for the loss of all of his children, which is nothing. And he gave it all to this whole national school for the blind. Over the course of his life, he would donate more than $1.3 million to churches, schools, and charities that his daughter liked. And he would say, "Money to me is nothing that I can have. My daughters all had dreams to make the world a better place, and I just have to fulfill those dreams before I go." And Gia, the one that survived 13 days, she said, "I just hope people can learn from this. That no one should ever have it won't happen to me. It doesn't concern me attitude. Because tragedy doesn't really pick people to happen to. It can happen to anyone. It can happen to your child that waved goodbye to you before school, or
Yep.
the husband that promised to be home for dinner.
Yep.
I never thought something like this would happen to me, but it did."
Which is scary.
And that is the story of this Hampung department store collapse. Honestly, what are your thoughts? Please leave it in the comments.
That is insane. That's crazy. People are so fucking stingy. It's money, 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 money. Literally, they're right. It's all about money. Nobody cares about the family. Like, people are so stupid. You could have made the building so much better. But you want to be stupid and keep adding heavy shit. You didn't want to pay the money to make it better. Like, I just can't. But alright, YouTube, we're gonna end this video here. I hope you guys did enjoy this video. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe, turn on bell, turn on post notifications, all that good stuff. And I will see y'all in the next one. Time to go recover. Bye!